you happen to have this relationship with Jimmy, and it sounds like his father too, which is a special relationship of really talented athlete and really talented coach. You see this in Gordon and Danaher. You see this in other sports where Kobe and Jackson, like this just happens in sports sometimes where you get this unique connection. But even then, it takes years. It's 2023. The Olympics are happening in 2028. How the hell do you get an athlete to mature in this time and represent the United States in judo, help grow the sport, bring more eyes, and show that like we're still, we still can be a force within this, knowing what you know about how long it takes to get an athlete to that level?
It's probably not a question I should answer, but we have to go into the question with the understanding of the athlete has to have the athletic ability to do it, first of all.
As a prerequisite.
As a prerequisite, okay? Because you can't give me an athlete without that prerequisite and then expect me to make him the athlete, then teach him the sport, then mentally prepare him.
Fair.
He has to come with something, right? And so if we're going to go into the question with the assumption of, you know what, they have the athletic ability and they have the athletic drive, okay? Then the question becomes, how do you get their judo to a point where it's competitive? And how do you get them ready on the mental side of it? The only way to do that now is to run it like a dictatorship, where somebody has to sit at the head of the table and somebody has to force all of the athletes to sit down. All of the athletes have to train in the same room. All of the athletes have to train with the same coach. All of the athletes have to train with the same training partners until you get to a point where there's an understanding that I need you and you need me.
So you're almost expediting the relationship building component.
It's kind of like you got to put two people in a room that hate each other and lock the door until they come out as friends, or one of them's dead.
Right. Is that something that can happen within the current pool of judo talent, or do you feel like this is and maybe this isn't the best question for you, but do you feel like that's something where you reach into other buckets that are nearby? Do you reach into the wrestling bucket or the jiu-jitsu bucket and take an elite world-class competitor and say, hey, we got a 5-year timeline here. You possess X, Y, and Z. We really believe that you can, become global if you get on board with this in a sports that's like underfunded. We can't really support you. You got to pay your own way and then get them on the board. How does that work?
I mean, we run into a psychological problem when it comes to the solution I just presented. And I don't present the solution because I think it's the best way. I present the solution because I look at the resources that we have today and as our only real viable option, right? We're not like wrestling where we have a $15 million, $20 million a year budget that we can spend on athletes and centers and marketing and events and grow the sport of wrestling. We don't have that in judo. So with your limited resources in the pocket that you have to combine everything together, and you have to remove certain people's free will. And that's where we struggle as an American society.
Right, because
as Americans, what do you mean I can't live where I want to live? I can't train with who I want to train.
Right.
Why is that? We struggle with making that decision. But when you look at some of the most successful programs in the world for any sport, they're centralized.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Russia and Japan, right, and China, you're out the womb and you're in a kimono.
Imagine any of the NHL, NFL, or NBA teams where the athletes lived in different cities and practiced by themselves. and then they came together to participate in a game.
Right. Yeah.
Like
there's
how
no
good do you
cohesion.
think? Yeah.
I feel like it's got.
And
You
the
have
hard
to
part
find
is, the hard part is like you need the coach to understand the athlete from a psychological standpoint of how to push them, what pushes him, when to push them, when to rest them. And then once you do that, you can start pushing the buttons to get the most out of the athlete. But when you just walk into it, the athlete doesn't trust you.
right.
They don't trust anything you have to say. You haven't earned it yet. It takes time and like energy and effort and a back and forth relationship for months, if not years, before that relationship comes together.
Yeah, it's interesting. The dynamics there have to be. It's a very strange relationship, having
Yeah.
a meaningful relationship with a coach, because I've always thought of it like this. It's kind of stupid, but you know when all the Power Rangers come together and they form that really big one, a coach and an athlete that are really cohesive like that. The athlete is not the athlete anymore. They're not this individual person with a mind and they think for themselves and what am I going to do this weekend and how's my family? The athlete is a sole extension of the coach and all the practices that they put together. And their function, if they were like a robot, is to go and execute the plan in the live setting. Turn the button on, hit go, do what you do all your intrinsic things and your intuition, whatever. But it's an extension of this strange relationship that's very rare to see come to fruition in the right respects, where the athlete truly trusts the coach. The coach can be 100% transparent with them. There's no holding back, no feelings that they're leaving off the table. They can be super straightforward to where it would never work with anyone else, but it seems to work with that athlete for whatever reason. And that's fucking rare, man.
When we were getting ready for 2016, Jimmy sat me down in the office and he was like, so we have to put together a training plan for you from January to the Olympics. What do you want to go to and where do you want to go? And I was like, that's not my job. I go, that's your job. And he goes, well, you should have an input. And I said, I did have an input. It's your job. Like, we're going to win together or we're going to lose together. I'll do my job. You do your job. And then he picked the schedule. I did it. Silver medal. Because, you can't do everything. And the second you start taking responsibility for things that you're not an expert in,
right,
you don't get the results you desire.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that relationship wasn't always gravy, right? Like, how did you two manage your ups and downs? It's like your relationship with your father, right? You have these moments of really meaningful, impactful stuff where you inspire and you understand you want to be like, and you see this image, and then you have moments where it's the last person on earth you ever want to talk to, let alone respect.
Well, it's important that the goals are aligned, right? So Jimmy wants to win. Like,
right.
I want to win. Like, I don't give a fuck how we do it, but we're fucking winning, right? So when neither of us care how we do it, and all we care about is winning, whenever there's a rift or a tiff or a yelling match or whatever happens, right? You fall back to that like common goal of like, you want to win, don't you? Well, you kind of need me. Well, you want to win too, don't you? I kind of need you. Like, and then you just go back to work.
Was there ever a moment where you guys entertained 2024?
2024 was part of the plan after 2016. We wrote a budget together and a plan, and we presented it to USA Judo that said Travis was going to be the